Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we're stitching out Echo Shell into one of our pinwheel blocks. And actually, my husband Josh is doing the stitching. So let's get on the machine and see how he's doing in free motion. So something we changed up with this particular block is it was already basted up and ready to go, and I just went around the edge and stitched on a 2-inch strip of fabric. That's the darker blue fabric you see in this shot, and it's really helped out a lot. What do you think, Josh?
It has been a great help. I mean, just when I get to the corner edges, which were so difficult to control before, that's gone. It's totally gone.
Awesome. And what I should say is I did not actually add batting and backing here. Let's stop for just a second and I can show. All I did was just simply add a strip. This is a 2-inch white strip, and I just stitched it on out here along the edge. Remember, we're not quilting beyond this line here, and so this is extra. Whenever we finish the blocks, this will be cut off, but this might be very helpful if you're struggling with this edge, and especially in the corners. This might be a really useful thing to do to your blocks.
And what it does, it just gives you control that you wouldn't have. You can see that holds this area level for me to stitch, where before I'd have to have my fingers right here, right under the, near the foot and under the needle, which, is not really the best place for control.
And you might feel like, adding 2 inches extra around every block is a waste, but if it helps you produce better looking stitches and makes you feel more comfortable, then that's not a waste at all.
It's definitely not a waste. It's worth it. Every bit of it, I think, is worth it.
Excellent. So how is Echo Shell feeling for you?
Well, I hate to be sounding the praise of the extra fabric, because you can see I'm not staying in the lines. It has nothing to do with the fabric, though. Curves are not, they don't come easily for me, and that's why I'm way off the lines with this one.
At the same time, I do think that it would probably be worse if you didn't have the extra fabric in place.
Oh, it would be a lot worse, yes.
Yeah. So now you're going to stitch on down, or are you going to start knocking out those other echoes?
I'm going to start knocking out the
blue echoes.
The blue echoes, yes.
Okay. And really, whichever way you tackle this block, whichever direction, is perfectly fine. Just remember that, if you're going with blocks that you pieced and marked, you can always just simply not mark some of these designs and work freehand. You're going to have a different experience, a different look to the block, but that might be a little less stressful. I think some of Josh's stress and kind of feeling that the block doesn't look very good has to do with judgment of not staying on that line exactly. And sometimes it's nice to just not have those lines in place and be able to stitch it and just kind of go with your own signature. But that is looking great. You gonna knock out those 2 little lines right there?
Oh, I was actually going to skip them, but yeah, I'll go knock them out.
I'm keeping you honest. So that's a repetitive movement back and forth. As you stitch it repeatedly, I'm seeing an improvement. How do you feel about it?
Yes, definitely. The longer you go unbroken with a pattern like this, the more comfortable and easier it gets.
Now, I always work those from the center to the outside. You're working it the opposite direction. Did you stitch any of these the other way?
No, they're all stitched this way.
You stitch them all going this direction. So that's really interesting. There's more than one way of doing all of these blocks. Excellent. Then knock out that
here
one
to finish up this
last little one.
Right.
So that's it for stitching these echoes in a pinwheel block. After finishing this up, you were a little critical of how your block looked, and feeling like it just doesn't look as good as you'd like. Is there any advice that you have for beginners that are struggling with this too?
One, definitely invest the time and the scrap you have to adding the extra borders. The hardest part with every single block I have is getting these tight stitching in the corners. That, when having this fabric, that eliminates that. That's not even a concern anymore. Just to keep stitching through it. When you hit, you're not comfortable when you're going off the lines. It can get frustrating. I know I got frustrated.
So it's just the frustration side of it. As far as feeling better about your block, I mean, do you think if you stitched this 2 or 3 times you'd feel a lot better about it, or do you think you just get more frustrated?
I would probably get more frustrated. I'd just leave this alone and just chalk this up for a learning experience and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When I first started quilting, I actually couldn't stitch a few designs. I couldn't stitch paisley, and I couldn't stitch pebbling. And now those are 2 of my favorite designs. It took me, a few months of practice to be able to, and a few changes. I had to change my thread. I had to figure out what was working best for my machine. But eventually, with practice and patience, those are now my favorite stitches. So keep that in mind. You might today hate a design that in a year or 2 you're going to love. So keep that in mind too. My name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we've been stitching out just one of the blocks that is included in this quilt along. Together we're going to learn 42 total, both piecing and free mission quilting. So if you'd like to join in the fun, definitely pick up the Building Blocks quilt pattern available at leahday.com. You can also pick up cheater cloth, the Spoonflower pre-printed cloth, so that you don't have to cut and piece your blocks. You can just baste it and get started ready to quilt. Find that cheater cloth at spoonflower.com. Till next time.
Let's go quilt.